Have you ever been in a car? You're sitting in the car, and or in a train, and you think at first that the other train is moving or the other car is moving, and then suddenly you realize it's you moving. Yeah. Have any of you had that type of experience? Well, humanity has been thinking for thousands of years that what? The sun is moving. And now we're realizing, we're waking up to the fact that what? The earth is spinning. So when we tell our kids, look, you know, Johnny, the sun's going down, are we doing them a service? No. We're actually putting in their brains a false model of, an incorrect model of the solar system. An archaic, ancient model, because our language, sunset, sundown, sunrise, is based on a time before we knew scientifically that the sun doesn't move. That's the center of the solar system you're looking at there. That's the home star, and the rest of the Earth is just spinning. Okay, do you get the correct perspective? So actually, we should tell our little children, look, Johnny, the what?
The Earth is tilting?
Tilt is not a good word, because tilt can refer to the tilt of the North Pole, and that's not exactly what we're talking about here. The Earth is spinning away from the home star, the sun. That's what we should be saying, and then putting the correct model. You know, it's like going from flat Earth to round Earth. We're going from a moving sun to a stationary sun here. And so what is occurring, you know, what you should say probably is, look, Johnny, at the spin, you know, at the Earth spinning away from the sun, or a term I came up with, the spin out, because we're spinning to face the outer part of the solar system, and then in the morning we're going to spin around and we're going to spin in to face the center of the solar system again. Okay, now no religious text got this right. The Bible, the Quran, none of them talk about this correctly. They all talk about the sun coming up and the sun going down and the sun going across the sky. Okay, so when Galileo came along and said that the sun doesn't move, you know, this caused a lot of friction within the Catholic Church. And it wasn't until 1980, I think around 86 or 96, somewhere around there, Pope Paul apologized to Galileo for, you know, basically putting him under house arrest and forcing him to take back his ideas. Did you guys know that? This whole, remember, our brains are not geared to, you know, think in terms of millions of years. It's not what our brain evolved to do. Yet somehow we're able to do this. It's interesting. I talk more about that in the psychology class. Yeah, but time, you know, is certainly, we've extended our reach into the small, into the things that are far away, and into time. You know, we've extended our reach where now we can talk about things that happened, you know, 12 billion years ago, the start of the universe, and then 4 or 5 billion years ago, the beginning of planet Earth. So, you know, back in the Stone Age, they were lucky if they could talk about things that happened, you know, I mean, a dog, think about it, a dog. Can a dog talk about time to other dogs? Not that we know of. We seem to be unique species able to what's called time bind. We can bind together different time periods. It's called, that's a term that's been used, time binding. We're a time binding species, and as far as we know, we're the only one. I say as far as we know because maybe dolphins or, you know, whales can have a sophisticated enough language that they can, you know, pass on an oral tradition. Like in the old days, before they had writing, what did they used to do?
Talk.
Yeah, they would have these poems or these rhymes, and they'd they'd have the whole history of the tribe in this rhyme, and one person would memorize it, and then he'd pass it on to another person, and they'd have the oral history of their people, the oral history. Do you guys know about that? And then eventually came along writing, and they didn't have to do that anymore. What's that?
I said lazy.
Some people say, yeah, some people say it made us lazy, but I think it also prevented change from occurring, because who knows, after thousands, hundreds of or thousands of years, how that history might have changed just from the oral repetition. You guys have probably played the game where you whisper something to somebody and he whispers it to the next person, and by the time he gets to the end, sometimes it's different, right? So a lot of our traditions that we've come across may have actually changed before they actually got written down. And in my book, I relate back, for example, I'm going to talk about the pyramids, the Great Pyramids of Egypt, right? The big pyramids. Well, my theory in my book, and it's backed up with a lot of facts and data and footnoted and all that, but I'm going to just give you the brief idea, is that the Great Pyramids, if you follow the Nile River up into Africa, you're actually going up as you're going south. You're going up into the Sudan and up further, and eventually you come to a slew of mountains. In fact, you come to a whole range, and there's what's known as the Rift Valley. The Rift Valley, it's a fault system, and it's very geologically active, and there's a lot of volcanic activity up there. So you come to a lot of big volcanoes up in that area. In fact, Kilimanjaro, you guys have heard of that? That's a volcano. It's sleeping right now. But there's some very active volcanoes up in there. And my theory is that as people evolved and came out of Africa, they came down the Nile River. They brought the knowledge of those volcanoes with them, that was their primitive science, how the volcano worked. And when they got to the foot of the Nile, they built the big pyramids to represent what?
Volcano.
The volcanoes. Okay? Pyramid. Pyro means what?
Fire.
Fire. Okay? So, that's in my book. I'm not going to go into all the details of it right now, but I checked this out in other cultures around the world and other mythologies, and I found the same thing. Every mythology or religion that got started seemed to take its initial ideas from volcanoes. Okay?
So what is the mid part?
Middle. So pyramid, I think mid refers to the middle of the volcano, which is where the fire is, right? In the inside. And Osiris of Egypt was the god of the underworld. And in the hieroglyphs it talks about the efflux of Osiris. What does efflux mean? The efflux means the outflow. So what is the outflow of the god of the underworld? It's the lava and the magma coming out. Okay? In the hieroglyphs it talks about the lake of fire. Well, in Africa, in the area I told you about, there are volcanic lakes, lava lakes they call them. Okay? Anyway, there's a whole slew of things. If you read the hieroglyphs from a geological perspective, you'll see one point after another that the people of ancient Egypt were studying these volcanoes.